Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our webinar today. Excited to have you guys. Excited to have you all. I have been informed that you're not seeing the screen. Here we go. Excited to see everyone. We'll get started here in a bit, and folks will continue to trickle in. So, appreciate you all joining. Happy Thursday. It's almost the weekend. Hopefully, everyone has some fun weekend plans, whether or not you're like kind of just starting your quarter, you're maybe in the middle of your semester, whatever the case may be. Hopefully, you have some fun weekend plans. Um, I will, like I said, I'll get started here in a bit, and we'll go through a couple of quick introductions. Basically, what to expect today is we'll have a chat with Christine, and I'll kind of go through kind of what to expect as you get ready for fall recruitment or as you are in the middle of fall recruitment. And we'll go through some quick tips for Handshake and then answer questions. So if you have any questions, make sure you use the Q&A feature. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I'll stop my screen share. We are gonna go back to this. Okay, so again, thanks for joining us today. As mentioned, my name is Min from Handshake. Really excited to have everyone here. A couple of quick notes, as I mentioned. So we'll do about 30 minutes of tips and then demonstration. We'll save some time at the end for questions. So please, like I said, do use the Q&A box and feature during the entire session. We'll try to get through as many questions as possible, and we want to make sure that we try and get through all of your questions if possible. So excited because obviously we have just turned the calendar into October, and it's peak time for campus recruiting. So you're probably hearing a lot about career fairs. You maybe have already attended several as well, on-campus interviews, networking events, and maybe even seeing friends that like have potentially accepted an offer for next year. It's incredibly daunting, and we hear you. And we want to make sure that obviously you feel supported, especially as you're just starting to think about maybe the job search, maybe what you want to do. So perhaps you're at a quarter school system and just getting the term rolling, or you weren't ready to dive in until now. Whatever your reason for attending today, we want to make sure we prepare you to dodge the pressure, take a little bit of some of that pressure off so that you all can lock in during this hiring season. After this event, the goal is that you all walk away with some tools as well as tricks and like Handshake platform tips that can help throughout your profile or to help your job search and your time here on Handshake. So, with that, let's get into it. And I want to introduce our guest for today. So, Christine is an incredible colleague of mine here at Handshake. She's low key slash high key a celebrity within the Handshake space and within the educational space. So, Christine, we'll kick off with a quick round of intro. Can you share what you majored in? What you do here today at Handshake, and a favorite memory that you've had from a job, whether it's here at Handshake or previous.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Christine. I am the Chief Education Strategy Officer here at Handshake. That essentially means that I run our education side of the business, and I partner with all of our 1,600 plus universities, many of whom you all attend. So very excited to chat with you all today, answer your questions. Favorite memory, I'm going to actually choose a very recent one. So just a couple weekends ago, I had the privilege of representing Handshake at the Teen Vogue event, and I was so impressed with all of the students that came up to introduce themselves, to chat with me. It was a number of students. Some were still in high school, many were in college. And the best part of it was just hearing so many students tell me that they have been using Handshake, that they got their first internship on Handshake. I got a few professionals, young professionals, that actually said they got their internship and their first job on Handshake. And they were really excited to now be an alum and be someone who was giving back in the Handshake community, whether that was on the feed or posting or answering questions or just being part of someone's network if someone reaches out. So all of those stories are incredibly, incredibly heartwarming, and love that experience.
What a cool memory, Teen Vogue. I remember you posting about that, and I was like,
I
wait,
did.
Christine's on Teen Vogue right now? That's so cool. And then I'll do the same. So my name is Min. I am a senior product marketing manager here at Handshake. All of that fancy title means is my goal is to try and support you all, the students. So making sure one, you guys feel supported throughout the entire career process, but also you all feel supported from our Handshake platform. So a lot of that is just making sure that you all know how to use it, how to best utilize it for what you're looking for. I majored in advertising and I went to the University of Texas at Austin. So if anyone in here happens to go there, how come? And then favorite memory is I'll actually do a recent one as well. So you all may have heard, but we've been traveling all across the country and hitting up like so many different schools. I think the total number is like 30 different schools with our Handshake and Google Gemini partnership. And so I may have met some of you all at some of those schools, but it's been honestly so fun being able to meet so many of you all, hear the good, the bad, the opportunities that you all are like sharing with me, and at the same time just fill my stomach with a bunch of ice cream because we've been giving out ice cream. So that's been my lunch for the last like 3 weeks. It's just ice cream, which is
I love
good and bad. I'll
I
take
love
that.
that. And Min, I totally
Um,
forgot to answer your question about my major. I was a psychology major, in
mm,
undergrad, and I went to James Madison University on the East Coast.
nice. East Coast represent. Okay, Christine, prior to Handshake, so your background is primarily in university career services. So you know a lot about what it takes to find a job and then also what employers are looking for. Um, so as I mentioned, we're now in October. What is October like in the world of campus recruitment? With the lens that we obviously have probably a decent amount of students here joining today that are on the quarter schedule. Can you talk about how that potentially impacts campus recruiting as opposed to maybe like students on the semester schedule? And then give a quick overview of why some industries consider like the fall in general, like their peak hiring season.
Sure. So if you are on a quarter system, you would have likely just started school pretty recently. So this is the peak of your fall recruiting season. October is going to be very busy for you. Your career center likely has a lot of career fairs, a lot of info sessions, a lot of employers visiting. That's happening right now. So October is going to be sort of your peak month for when all of that activity is happening. If you're on the semester schedule, October's still busy, but it's probably starting to taper off because September was likely your busiest month. And then it's like the first couple weeks in October are really busy, and then it starts to taper off as you head into November. The reason fall is considered often the busiest recruiting month is because a lot of the types of industries and organizations that do mass hiring, meaning they hire thousands or hundreds of students at one time, they tend to do most of their hiring in the fall. So those would be industries like financial services, investment banking, management consulting, tech. Those are all the areas that typically do a lot of recruiting in the fall. And they typically are not just hiring one or two students, they're hiring hundreds or thousands of students at once. And so that's why you tend to see them do it earlier. So they would tend to do both their internship recruitment and their full-time recruitment now in the fall for the following summer. If you are in an industry that is not one of those areas, your recruiting may be year round, or it may be more concentrated in the spring. So different industries have different recruiting timelines. If you're curious about your specific one, you can also go to your career center at your school and ask them about that. And they can also give you more particular information around your areas too.
Incredible. And Christine, I know this comes up like, I think this came up last time we did one of these webinars, and I know it's come up from students a lot as well, is like for students that maybe fall in the category of maybe their industry have more heavily recruits in the spring.
Mhm.
Um, what would you recommend and how would you recommend them still getting involved in the fall and making sure that like, you're taking this, they're able to take the steps not only during the fall, but to position themselves for a really successful recruitment season in the spring.
Yeah. So one of the things that I want to very quickly demystify is applying for a job is not just filling out the application, having a resume, or filling out your online profile, and then literally hitting apply. Like that's not the whole process. So if that's all you're doing right now, chances are you're not having very much luck. And so that is not the whole process. there's so much more that you need to do, and use this time now in the fall to do that, especially if your area or industry doesn't recruit heavily until the spring. So a couple things that you should also add in addition to making sure you have a great resume and a great online profile, you got to do your research and you got to network. So I'll talk about those two things in particular. So when I say research, you've got to do both your macro research and micro research. So micro research would be knowing the company or companies that you're most interested in, really understanding, reading the news about them, understanding how they're structured, the teams that they have, the types of roles that you're applying for. What does it mean? What are the job responsibilities for that? Like really understanding the specifics. That's micro research. But what you also have to pair that with is macro research. So let's say, for example, you're going into investment banking. You need to know about what's going on in your field. How is the economy? How are tariffs? How are things in the government impacting your work, investments? What companies are looking at or not looking at or thinking about or worried about? If you're going into marketing, you need to be able to talk about how AI is upending or changing the way in which people do content marketing, digital marketing, field marketing, growth marketing, right? Things like that. Like you need to be able to talk shop about your area. And right now is a great time for you to be able to do that research. You should be following different podcasters. You should be reading different articles. You should be reading up on the trends. Essentially, you want to be able to answer the question if someone were to ask you, what are the top 3 emerging trends in blank area, whatever your area of interest is. And you should be able to converse on it and ask some very educated questions based on that. So that's research. The other piece is networking, and this takes time. So you definitely want to use this time to do that. And even if recruiting for your area is happening in the fall right now, you still want to couple that with networking. A few different ways. If you are someone who actually enjoys networking in a large scale environment, go to events. Go to the career fair, go to networking sessions, go to panels, use that opportunity to meet people, not just the panelists and not just the employers, but sometimes your fellow peers or other attendees are great folks for you to also network and meet with and begin to build out your circle. If you are someone who's like, that sounds terrible, I want nothing to do with a large scale event, you should probably do more one-on-one informational interviews. So I would recommend, for example, you go on Handshake, look at the people tab, and you can actually do a search for students or alumni from your school or from any other of the 1,600 Handshake schools that have a similar interest or working in the industry that you are, maybe work at a company or interned at a company that you want to go to. Reach out to them, ask for 15, 20 minutes of their time, 30 minutes maybe, to learn more about their career path and how they got started. I actually just got a request today from a really lovely student at the University of Toronto, who said they found my profile. They were very interested in the career path that I chose to take and wanted to ask me a few questions, right? So make it easy for someone to essentially say yes. Here are a few easy tips. When you reach out to someone, be specific about what you want to talk to them about. Don't make it vague, make it a little bit more specific so they know, yes, can I actually talk to that, or no, I can't. 2, give them your availability. Most people are busy. They're not going to be able to see you this week when you reach out. So give them your availability for the next 2 weeks and offer up like 3 times, dates and times. If you can tell where they are located, translate the time to their time zone to make it easier. These are all things that just make it more likely for you to get a yes.
I love especially the tip about translating the time zone. That was something that like when I was coming out of school was so underrated for like from my part of like the fact that you're saving them even just like a couple seconds of like, oh, if I'm saying 1 p.m. Eastern, what does that actually mean on the West Coast? And like you're
Yep.
saving them that time and it goes such a long way in just making that yes so much more easier. Um, and Christine, so building on that, so one of the things I know does get asked a lot from students is, great, let's say they had a really great session at their career fair, maybe had a really great one-on-one session with someone that they met at the career fair and are reaching out. Um, any tips or advice on the what next of like you've made that initial conversation, you've had that initial touch point. Now, what does it look like in terms of following up? making sure that like, that relationship continues to be a thing that like the student can foster.
Yeah. So you definitely want to follow up with whoever you met with, right? So there's a few different ways that you can do that. One is when you actually meet them in person, you might ask, would it be all right if I connected with you on LinkedIn or I connected with you on Handshake? Do you have a profile on Handshake? Those are great ways because then you can follow them on Handshake or you could connect with them on LinkedIn. Those are great ways to stay in touch. You might also ask them directly, would you be willing to give me your email? I would love to just send you a thank you note after today. I really appreciated the time you took to speak with me or to help me or to answer my questions, whatever the case may be. And then literally within 24 hours, actually send them a thank you note. And acknowledge what you chatted about briefly so that they can also remember you because likely they would have met hundreds of students over the course of the day. And so if there was something kind of specific to your conversation or a joke, or they commented on, the weather or the most recent sports game that you guys connected on, or literally something you were wearing, those are all easy ways to kind of like trigger someone's memory in your thank you note. Even if you do not get a response, it is good to send one because employers pay attention to these types of signals. They pay attention to who RSVPs and who actually shows up. They pay attention to who turns on their camera if it's a virtual event. They pay attention to who asks questions. They pay attention to who follows up. Like they pay attention to how quickly some people, if they reach out, how quickly people follow up. Are you someone who follows up within a few hours? Are you someone who takes more than a day or two, right? Or a week, right? All of these little things are all paid attention to. So every little bit can help you. There's no magic pill. There's no one thing you can do that's going to just make you completely stand out and change all of the outcomes. But if you consistently do all of the things that we're talking about, it will help.
Yeah, big on they we and employers see whenever you RSVP to an event. Take this event, for example. Like we're able to see everyone that RSVP to this event and everyone of you all that are showing up today. So it's like to Christine's point, obviously, it's like no different than if an employer is seeing that. Like they're seeing and they're paying attention to the students that are really making that effort.
Mhm.
Okay, Christine, you shared a lot of tips. Are there common mistakes that you've seen people make, not only in the job search process, the application process, maybe even the networking process of it? And how can everyone here avoid making those same mistakes?
Well, the first mistake would be what I noted before, which is you have your application, your resume, your online profile, and then you just apply, right? You essentially went
Mhm.
from step one to step four, and you skipped the two steps in between that I told you about. I've advised thousands of students, and often I would tell them if step four is not working, if your applications are not going through, you're not getting called back for an interview, things like that, you're probably not doing enough of two and three. And that's really true right now in a competitive job market where employers are also inundated with applications. So doing enough of two and three can be particularly helpful. A common mistake that I see people make with like their resumes, for example, is they try and cram too much information. Your resume is your first task at showing an employer that you know how to sift between signal and noise, and you are the product. And so they are looking to you to tell them what is the most important thing that I need to know about you that fits with what I'm looking for. And your ability to decipher through all of the experiences you've had to really get the most relevant information on that sheet is actually very, very critical. So that's one piece. Remember, you all are very lucky. You do not live in a world where it is only the resume. You have your resume and you have your online profile. Your online profile can be much more robust, can include much more information. So fill out your Handshake profile with like all the info that you want. Make your resume a curated sort of doc of that. That way, your employer has two different places they can go to where they can get the most relevant information, and then also maybe find out some like cool, fun things that you've done or participated in. Right. So that's a common mistake there. I think when it comes to doing doing research or networking or things like that, I find there's a few things here. One would be students expect that every single person they reach out to is going to respond to them. Or they get really discouraged if they don't. So it's not always expectation that they will. It's that like you start to feel down on yourself that that they're not responding or it's not happening. And you're like, oh my God, I either suck at this or it's never going to work for me. And I know some of you in the audience are probably feeling a little bit of that. Have no fear. You do not suck at it, and it is okay, and it will get better. So partially keep in mind this like framework. For every 10 people you reach out to, maybe 5 will respond to you. Of the 5 that responds to you, you will maybe connect with 1 or 2 of them in terms of like actually feel a connection and feel like it was really great conversation and someone that you would want to continue talking to. Okay. So don't be discouraged if all 10 don't respond to you or the majority don't respond to you. You just need 1 or 2 that you really connect with. And then from those conversations, one of the last questions I always ask someone when I'm chatting with them is, this has been so helpful. Do you have 1 or 2 colleagues that you would recommend I connect with to continue learning more? And you use that to help you continue to open doors, right? This is about building real relationships. It's not about amassing the most number of people in the shortest period of time. So just start, be methodical, keep at it, be consistent. You will end up meeting people. And to be honest, you can also meet people in some of the most random places. But I do find that people are often missing out on this because we've got our headphones in and we're looking at our phones most of the time. But if you actually take the time to like walk around, go grocery shopping, go to a coffee shop, go shopping. I mean, like literally go do normal everyday things without looking at your phone or your headphones on and like strike up conversation with people. You'd be amazed at how many individuals you can meet that are sometimes doing things that may be related to you, maybe tangentially related. They might be doing something totally different, but they know someone who's doing something related to you. Like you just never know where these connections could be. Could be your Uber driver. Like I've met so many people through people that I've met driving me to the airport. So you just never know where it could come from. And these are all the opportunities that I would encourage you to sort of like take advantage of. There are probably more mistakes, but I'll stop there.
Oh, that's great. And honestly, that still happens to me today. Like I will be getting ready for a flight and I have handshake stickers all over my laptop. And there was once where I was sitting in an airport lounge waiting for my flight and someone came up to me and was just like, "Do you work at Handshake? Or like are you associated with Handshake?" And then we started talking about Handshake. And like it's usually the most unexpected situations where you do have more at least what I've had is like had really organic and fruitful conversations, which have been fantastic. Okay, Christine, I'll dig into one area here before we go into like final words of advice and then save some time for Q&A. But one of the areas you mentioned is like the resume and then also making sure that like your Handshake profile and other maybe digital profile areas are filled out. Um, I know a lot of maybe some of the students here are maybe freshmen, sophomore, just getting started. What would you recommend? Any tips for those that maybe don't have as much work experience or maybe don't have as much of that like specific work experience to be able to add to areas like their resume or like even their profile?
Yep. Okay. So if you are a freshman or a sophomore or someone that just doesn't have a lot of work experience yet, there are a few things you can do. One is you can absolutely put your part-time work. So if you've done part-time work in high school, if you're a college freshman, totally valid to put that on there. If you've done volunteer work, totally fine to put that on there. All of you are literally in school, so you have classwork. Put your coursework or course projects, right? You could literally have 2 different sections, coursework and projects. So there are different ways that you can beef up your resume with some of those types of experiences. And what's important is actually the bullet points for those experiences. So what you want to do is every bullet point needs to start with an action verb: delegated, constructed, collaborated, directed, whatever. Okay. And you want to be very clear about what it was you did and accomplished in those roles to make it potentially as relevant as possible. Okay. It doesn't matter. Like some of you are thinking, well, all I did was like waitress or I was a babysitter. I promise you, there's a lot of relevance to all of these, right? With babysitting, you're managing sometimes difficult individuals and trying to convince them or persuade them to do things. You're probably dealing with time management in that, you're also dealing with other constituents and stakeholders like parents who might have different opinions or feelings about something. You're definitely doing all of those things. Same thing for waitressing, same thing for if you worked in retail at the mall, for example. Any of those are really valid, and you can figure out ways to talk about those components. This is actually where AI can actually be very, very helpful to you. You could just natural language write out like, okay, these are some of the things I did. How would I talk about that sort of like in resume speak? Right. And AI can help you to formulate some of those bullets, and then you can refine them based on that. You do want to quantify as much as possible in terms of maybe how much money you brought in per shift, or how many customers you were able to see per hour, or things like that that also show your productivity or your efficiency. Those are all ideas for things that you can do. Your course projects, you're able to really illustrate your collaboration, your teamwork, your ability to maybe handle conflict, because we all know teamwork is difficult and everybody doesn't always agree on what to do or how to do it or how to divvy up the responsibilities. Those are all things that you can highlight. As you start to get more experience in college, then you're going to start to move those things off of your resume. Okay. So by the time you are a senior, you'll have shifted all of your experience more into what you did during college, and you've now removed sort of the high school level experiences. So I would think of it that way. And if you are someone who's like, shoot, I don't have a part-time job or a volunteer thing, and I'm not involved in any student groups or things like that, then that is your first task. Go get one. Go do some of those things. And then you will have some experience to put on there.
Love that. Okay. Um, Christine, last question before we go into some product, and then we'll jump back with you for some Q&A. I was like perusing some of the Q&A, and there's some really good ones, so I'm excited to get there. Um, any final words of advice or encouragement for all of our students that are joining, to round us out before we jump into product how-tos?
Sure. A couple things. One, your first job is not your forever job. Okay. So just manage your own expectations around that. It's a tough and competitive job market out there for you all right now. You just need one job. You don't need five different offers. You need one. So manage your own expectations around like, this job doesn't have to be perfect. This job doesn't have to be the thing I want to do for the rest of my life. This job does not have to pay me immense amounts of money. It needs to give me some pay. I need to be able to learn some skills. And I'm going to use this as a stepping stone to whatever my second or my third or my fourth job will be. And so when you're looking at a job description, when you're thinking about where to apply, yes, I want you to have some level of genuine interest in the job or the role or the mission of the company. Like, that is ideal. And it doesn't have to be all of the things. So rank order for yourself. What is truly most important to you? And what are you willing to trade off in order to get some of the other things, right? So for example, I have a 12-year-old son. And we were kind of just casually chatting about like what he thinks what he might want to do one day. And he mentioned like, well, I feel like I would need a job that makes a lot of money if I want to live in San Francisco. And so I was like, that's probably true. And I was like, and you also don't have to live the current lifestyle you have when you first start off. If are you willing to live with roommates? Are you willing to live in a much smaller place? Is San Francisco the number one thing that you're really optimizing for? Are you willing to maybe live in another city that's lower cost of living one day and then move to San Francisco down the road? Like, is money the most important thing to you? Or do you feel like you need to actually enjoy some of the work that you're doing or the people that you work with, right? Like, these are the types of questions you should be asking yourself. You will all find something. It will just take some time. It will take some persistence. Do not give up while you're doing that.
Love that, and I love that your son is already thinking about those questions, which makes sense having Christine as their mom.
Well, he's
Um,
currently selling candy in middle school to like to turn over a profit, so we'll see.
That's so funny. Cool. Thank you so much, Christine. We'll have Christine back to answer a bunch of questions. And what we're going to do now is jump into some Handshake specifics. Big goal for me during this is to just give you all a lay of the land. I know some of you all may not be as familiar with Handshake and some of the tools that exist. So we want to make sure you all are well aware of that, give you some tips on how to navigate, what to do, what are some of the most important things. And with that, I will start sharing my screen. Ooh, wrong button. There we go. You're witnessing real life tech happening at the same time. Okay, so this is what you're going to see when you first log into Handshake. If you haven't logged into Handshake already, do log into Handshake. A lot of you all will have Handshake available through your school. So once you log in, if you haven't already, you'll want to click sign in with your school, and it'll be your school single sign-on. And that's how you'll get access to Handshake. So this is the view that you're going to see. On the left here will be your kind of basic navigation. So you have your key areas here. What you're seeing right now is what we call the Handshake feed. And the feed is really a place for you all to, one, start building your community, but also start, maybe discovering and finding out about other students that are in a same, like in same similar shoes as you are. So maybe they have the same major, maybe the same class year. There's a lot of info that gets shared on the feed in terms of like what's been happening, what's helpful, what's maybe an event that they've gone to. So I would recommend spending some time on the feed, using this as a really great opportunity to see what students that are in the similar shoes as you, what they're up to and what's going on with them. So the first place I will stop at is your profile. And Christine mentioned this, but one of the most important things is making sure that your Handshake profile continues to represent who you are and maybe what stage of your career that you are in. And so, what I would always recommend to students is, especially maybe you are an underclassman, maybe you're a freshman, sophomore, maybe set some time, set a reminder every month to make sure you go and update your profile. If maybe a certain month you don't have anything to update, well, you don't have to do anything that month. But just setting that reminder allows you to make sure that this profile continues to be your top of mind, and you have that kind of built-in schedule to add any updates that you might have. If you're a maybe upperclassman, let's say junior, senior, I would recommend maybe setting a reminder every couple weeks to update this, especially as you're going through, maybe you have an internship and maybe you're wrapping up a project. This is a really good space to put one, that project that you did in your internship, but also maybe some of the newer skills that you've picked up while you were in that internship. So I'll go through and dive a little bit deeper into the profile now. So this is your profile, as I mentioned. One of the biggest areas that I always advise students to make sure that they have filled out. Mine is not as filled out, but I am very happy here at Handshake. So that is the looking for section. This is a great way to not only indicate to maybe employers that are looking at your profile on Handshake, but also it allows our platform to recommend jobs, events, internships, opportunities that are extremely relevant to you all. So sometimes, students will come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting a lot of jobs and opportunities that maybe aren't as relevant to me and what I'm looking for." The first thing I always do is have you filled out your looking for. And 9 times out of 10, the looking for is very bare bones. And so definitely spend some time and start here. So you have some options here of like what you're looking for. So maybe it is that full-time job, maybe it's only a part-time job, internship, or maybe you're just looking for network and inspiration. You can select whichever one is applicable and make sure, yeah, whichever one is applicable to you. You can multi-select as well. So maybe it's all of these and all of the above. Make sure you have that indicated. If there are specific roles that maybe you're interested in, fill that in here. So let's say for me, it'll be marketing. So I can simply type marketing and I'll have a drop down of maybe things, roles that are related to that. So spend some time and add in maybe there are certain roles that you're looking for. Maybe you don't know your specific role, but you know what industry that you want to be in. So I'll use hospitality. Ooh, look, hindsight, I wish I used one that was a little bit more easy to spell. Maybe let's do tech. So you can do. basically an industry that you're interested in. Maybe you want to go into this industry, or maybe it's you're at a stage where you're like, I am interested in this industry. Just add those here. And the broader you start, as you continue to go through your career search process, you can continue to refine this. So this isn't a set it and forget it. It's a set it and let me adjust for what maybe I need at the moment. Last but not least is location. And this is always a big one. Um, I know a lot of you all are maybe potentially looking for opportunities in a specific city. Maybe it's your hometown and maybe you want to stay at a, at whatever hometown that is, or maybe there's a dream city in mind that you want to go work at. Add whichever location that is, just so that one, like I said, our platform can recognize that and maybe try and recommend and bring up roles and opportunities that are more relevant to you. So maybe it is a role in a city like New York, or and employers can also see that, and maybe they're hiring for a role that is based in, let's say, Los Angeles. And if you have Los Angeles in your location, that is a really good indication that for the employer that, oh, this person might be a good person to reach out to because they are interested in working in Los Angeles. So I would, like I said, update you're looking for. Go in and add a summary. This is such a great space to give employers and anyone looking at your profile a quick view of, what you're all about. So one or two sentences, give them a little bit about yourself, what you're interested in, maybe some of the skills that you already possess. Last but not least, go in and add your skills. You can add as many as you want. Like I said, we recommend 10 or less, but making sure you add those skills, and the skills that you do add, I will say, make sure that you're able to confidently speak to them. Just in case any employer sees your profile and they're like, oh, hey, Min, I saw you had consumer marketing listed as your skill. Can you talk more about maybe why you have that listed as a skill? You want to make sure that you're prepared for that question. A quick couple things that I'll add here on your profile is go through and add things like your courses. Christine, as Christine mentioned, like this is a great, all of you all are in school, all of you all are taking courses. So adding those courses here just kind of give an indication of maybe some of the things that you're studying, maybe um, where your mindset might be at. Organizations is another really good one. This is, adding your organizations or clubs that you're involved in on campus, especially also if you hold any leadership positions. I think I saw in the chat one of the questions was around like, should I add Greek life as a part of the organization that I'm in? 100%, especially if you had any type of responsibilities while you were involved in that organization. Adding that here because then that all that does is to continue to bolster your profile and show kind of a little bit about like maybe what you're capable of, maybe some of the responsibilities that you're used to handling. So don't hesitate to add that here into your profile. The next thing that I'll go through, the next two things before we jump into Q&A is jobs, and I'll quickly go through jobs here. The biggest thing to call out with jobs is these filters. So on Handshake, we have a pretty robust set of filters for you to try and find whatever job that maybe you're specifically looking for. So the first ones are like employment type, job types. I think these are fairly straightforward. I know there were some questions about like maybe if I'm maybe looking for jobs that maybe isn't an internship or a full-time job, but maybe it's like volunteer or like experiential learning or like fellowship opportunities, this is your go-to filter. So just select what you're looking for. Location, another great way to filter out jobs based on location. So maybe you want to live in, maybe you're interested in New York, but you also have a radius slider. So you can drill down and be really specific and say, I want to specifically be in New York, or you can kind of expand that and say, I want to be in the general area. A good use case for this is I know a lot of students want to stay close to family, but maybe you kind of want to have a little bit of space and you want to live in your own city. This is a really great way and great space to be able to filter out jobs that allow you to do that. Any pay benefits, so maybe it's a paid, maybe you're looking for an unpaid opportunity. If there are specific like compensation or additional benefits that you're interested in, this is a great way to do that. And then going through the rest of the filters, things like on-site, remote, job roles, highlighting this for any of our international students. We also have a pretty robust work authorization filter here. So maybe you're specifically interested in jobs that are open to like a US visa or things like that. Definitely use this to try and filter out some of those jobs. Once you have all your filters applied, just hit apply. And what you'll see is this bar on the left will update with any jobs that fit your application criteria. All you have to do is just click on one of them and you'll see kind of the details and you'll be able to apply here. A quick call out is I would recommend you download the Handshake app because one of the things you can do on the app is to quick apply. So if you have things such as like your resume already uploaded to your profile, you can click apply and it'll pull from your resume there. You can also then sort. So what I would always do is like either most relevant or maybe even newest jobs. A good one is the soonest application deadline. So maybe there are ones that are expiring today, and you want to get in on it. So use these filters to your advantage. The last two that I'll go through real quick is employers. Great way to find certain companies that you're interested in. Again, use the filters to your advantage. Maybe there's a location, maybe there's a specific employer size that you're really keen on working. So I know a lot of people enjoy working at a smaller company. So use these filters here. And then last but not least is the events page. You all are already a step in advance because you are attending this event. So use these filters to find and maybe explore certain events that you are most interested in. I know that was a quick crash course, but I want to make sure we have some time to go into Q&A. So Christine, can I have you back here?
Hi there.
Yay, okay.
Busy trying to answer as many of these questions as possible.
I know. I saw the Q&A notification keep popping in and out, and I was like, "Oh, Christine is doing the Lord's work right now in terms of answering some of these questions."
I'm trying.
Okay, so I will go through a couple questions that we have, and let's go through with. Um, so Liz asks, what to do if I am messaged by a recruiter on Handshake to apply for a job? Is it legit? What are the steps I can take to respond to that message? I'll start with the first one. Yes, it is legit.
It is very legit. Employers would love for you to respond back or to take the action that they ask you to do in the message. So sometimes the message may ask you to apply. It may ask you to RSVP for an event that they're doing. It may ask you to respond. It could be any of those things. They are looking for you to actually do it. It is all legitimate. So definitely highly encourage you, Liz, to do that. The first step would obviously be whatever the call to action is, prioritize that. But you can also always send that recruiter a message, just thanking them for reaching out to you, that you're very interested in the company and that you look forward to being part of the selection process, and things like that. Those are all really nice ways to respond back and to engage with that person. If you notice that the person is also active on Handshake, you might follow them as well so that anytime they post or they do anything like that, it'll show up on your feed too. So those are all great options.
Incredible. And then this is specific to finance, Christine, but I think also applicable to any field really. So this student said, I have some past experience that isn't directly finance related, but shows transferable skills.
Mhm.
Um, would you recommend keeping that on my resume, or should I keep it strictly focused on finance roles?
Well, it depends if you have enough experience that's actually related to finance. If you do, then I would remove the other piece that you said sort of has transferable skills. If you do not, or you have maybe like one thing that's directly related to finance or two things, but you kind of still need to like fill up the page, then I would include that. And I would make sure that the bullet points are worded in such a way that it really shows the transferable skill and you're essentially translating it for the employer so that they don't have to do that work and you're getting those bullets up as high as possible within that experience. And what I would probably do is section your resume into like relevant experience, additional experience. And then the relevant stuff can be the things that are directly related. Additional could be this experience that you're talking about. If you don't have any relevant experience, then just write experience and then have this and make sure all the bullets are translated to the transferable skills.
Love that. Okay. Tyreek has a question. When connecting with people at an event, what would be the right way to what would be the right way to prepare? You talked a lot about research.
Mhm.
So that's a big one. Any other advice around that?
Yeah, look up who they are, check out their LinkedIn or their Handshake profile, make sure you know what their work history is or where they've worked, what experiences they've had, maybe where they've lived, the cities they've lived, the types of roles they've had. Those are all helpful for you formulating your questions. And then, of course, in the actual event, make sure if they're speaking, make sure you're listening carefully to what they're talking about, because that usually can open up ideas for other questions that you would want to ask them.
Love that. And then I think we have time for one more question, so I'm going to squeeze this in. Noah asks, when connecting with people online via LinkedIn or Handshake, should we try to only connect with people whom we actually know or have talked to, or is it intrinsically valuable to make a network of strangers who share common interests, even if we don't necessarily interact with them?
Both and. So you can always start with people that you know, that's great. Then I would also look for people who have shared interests, but you don't know yet, but perhaps you would like to know. And I would make that effort to actually reach out and ask for some time to actually have a conversation, whether through Zoom or whether through phone, doesn't matter. And some of those folks who you don't know now will become people that you do know as a result of that. So yes, I would do both. I would not recommend just like randomly connecting with lots of people for the sake of doing that. You don't have to literally meet every single person that you choose to connect with or follow. Sometimes you just like someone's content and you're like, I like her tips. I want to follow her. I'm going to do that. That's totally fine too. But I do encourage you to do both.
Love that. And thank you so much, Christine, for the time. So, final quick two things before we jump off. One, thank you so much, Christine. Hopefully, these tips for you all help in the fall semester and beyond. So first call out is I know there were a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to. We do have a couple of other forums. So Christine does office hours. So keep on the lookout for those events where it's like a really big forum for you all to be able to for these questions to be answered by Christine or other folks within our team. Um, and then last but not least, I want to quickly shout out that we do have our giveaway that's happening. You all may have heard of this. But this semester, we're giving away a total of $30,000 to students all across the country. So if you haven't already, take a peek in the chat. There will give you more information on how to enter and how to potentially enter yourself to win a share of that. With that, Christine, thank you again. It's always so insightful to have you into these sessions. And I know students always like leave buzzing with some of the advice that we're able to share. And to you all students, thank you so much for joining. You all are doing incredible. Remember, it's not a race, it's a marathon. And you all will make it to the finish line. And thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye all.